And everybody to the VOD Squad, the show where you can talk about streaming videos, streaming music, anything that streams, and how you can get to that data to your ears or your eyes. This week, it's me, it's Matt. I'm here tonight with Jimmy.
Hello, everybody.
And Michael.
Hello, everybody.
And one thing that I streamed this week, I streamed the sun straight into my eyes. Okay, I can't see. How you guys doing?
Not bad at all.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
pretty good.
And I guess everybody out there is noticing that we don't have Clyde tonight.
Yeah, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Yeah, just so anybody's curious, these are the glasses that you wear when you were staring at the eclipse, and it was fun to watch.
How was it there?
And
were you you were pretty close, if not in totality, weren't you?
I was at 9,
Okay.
Wow.
Is that pretty cool?
so I got to see everything but a little sliver.
Neat.
Of course, the thing to do when you're watching the eclipse is not to look at the sun, but to turn and look at everybody looking up at the sun. I have some people who took some pictures of that.
Yeah. Was there anybody making a human sacrifice to ensure that the sun came back?
Not where we were. This is a school district.
Oh, okay.
But I did notice one thing is when we had most of the sun covered by the moon, I could look next to the sun, not at the sun itself, and see the light that's coming from the sun. It's really, really white when it's blocked like that. I mean, it's like a silver color, which probably is a reflection from the moon's surface or something like that. But it was very cool. So, yeah, Clyde's gone.
And I don't think he was blinded by the light.
No? What, anybody have any idea what he's actually doing?
It got something to do with pizza, I think.
Okay, let's just figure. Yeah, that's fine. He could probably enjoy a lot of good pizza. So, sad because I'm running. If anybody's actually here live, they would notice that we're running a little late. Just because it takes a little time for me to set things up. Okay. But anyways, we do have some news this week.
No.
So would you like to get to it?
Good.
We're going to start with YouTube TV. And they've expanded their markets to multiple various markets. In fact, the ones that they've expanded, my local area of Seattle.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. As excited as you because Austin's in the second. So in a few weeks, maybe, is what they're saying.
I'm hoping so because I want us all to try this out. And just so you guys know, I tried it out.
Oh, yeah? And how do you like it so far?
I don't want to put too much here, but it's good, but it's missing something.
DVR?
And that's no. It has a 9-month DVR.
I thought it did. I just couldn't remember. I'm confused. All this is now. I can't keep track of which one's which.
It's I wonder who that.
I think that's Clyde's job, and that's why I'm not here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the last. He's the guy we blame for everything.
It's all his.
Well, there was a comment by the head of YouTube on more platforms. They weren't specific on.
Try, whenever and see if they offered in my. I don't think they, but I think it. But it is coming, though. I think.
I believe you're on the list. On us. Just wanted to say briefly about the service on there, and I've got all my locals. So if you get a chance, defer to.
That's it in with the with the DVR the DVR works and how clean it is. So give it a shot.
W. Scott asks how long the trial month is. It's only 14 days.
14-day trial. And then remind me, I'm looking in the article.
It's going to be. So. Yeah, it's probably really behind because my poor laptop is trying really hard to keep up. We're going to have a 30-second delay today. Sorry. It's okay. I can bleep out curse words, right? That's what 30-second delay is for. Right? Oh. Walmart has gotten their onto Apple TV's got everything. And if they've got everything, is it the old now?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question. And yeah, they do, because I mean, the Amazon Prime is coming sometime this year. It's not out yet, but it is coming. They did announce that already. And with the but one thing about this Voodoo, if I'm wrong, they offer like the Blu-ray and like 4K content kind of thing, right?
It looks like they might be providing that, and there's rumors right now that the next box will be coming out with the 4K content. So
right. So, and that's kind of my point there. That's probably a little more evidence that it will be coming out later this year. The improved Apple television with the 4K, and I know speaking for me, this is. Now that I've got some content coming my way, right, in lieu of Apple TV, potentially, I think later this year I may actually buy a 4K television. I think I said that on the last show, right, that I'm out shopping for one already. But yeah, I think it's good. And I think, any kind of service that's going to offer 4K in today's market, I think that's going to put a little ahead. Especially for the people that's looking for the higher resolution, right, to go with that 4K television.
Well, it feels like Apple has moved themselves into a really good position here, where they have practically every service. I can't think of a service they don't have anymore. That they're at least not going to have. And they've got their Apple TV interface, which is supposed to be better. we'll see if they actually get it there. But
Right.
it's a foot in the door. It's going in the right direction.
Well, as an Apple TV
So
user, I mean, I have to, and I also use a Roku, right? I have to admit, I like the Apple TV interface better. But the Roku performs well as too. I mean, I don't think if you had a Roku and didn't have an Apple TV, I'm not sure if you're really missing out on a whole lot, really, right? I mean, both of them perform really well. I mean, especially the video quality on both is, I can't really tell a difference, in terms of the video quality between the two. But in terms of interface, I do like the Apple TV interface a little better, right? And I wouldn't say it's hugely better, but it's a little better than what the Roku is.
Yeah, a couple of things to me to note on this is that Vudu has the same challenge with this that you have with the Amazon Video, right? You can't purchase or rent directly in the application. I mean, that's not a deal breaker because, most of us have our phones handy while we're watching TV and stuff. So a video and purchase it or rent it on your phone and then have it show up on your device isn't that big of a deal. And in some cases might actually be the cleaner and quicker experience. But it's a little bit annoying. It just kind of gets back to Apple's kind of insistence on their cut and their dominance on their devices. I think that it's interesting. This article talks about, one of the advantages to the Vudu is that you've got the ability to go cross-platform, which you don't really have when you buy your stuff in the Apple iTunes store and stuff. And I think it's a little bit of a silly argument because legitimately what people that are in the Apple ecosystem that have an Apple TV are not already kind of neck deep in it and committed all the way. And you're not going to go pick up a Roku as a primary source, I don't think, as a general rule. Jimmy may be a little bit different because he's picking up other stuff for this show, but do you think you would have ever picked up a Roku just to have another device for another TV, or would you have gotten another Apple TV? Would you have just stuck with your ecosystem?
No, I mean, I had the Roku before this show, actually.
Yeah.
And the main reason why I had the Roku is because there was no other way to get Amazon Prime Video without, because I couldn't get it on the Apple TV. So I mostly bought a Roku. One was I was curious to see how it performs against the Apple TV. And then two was, just so I could have access to the Amazon Prime.
Now with that gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's with that gone. I mean, that poses an interesting question, especially for somebody like myself, which you all know. I'm in the Apple ecosystem, right? And so, if you're in that ecosystem, you might as well have the Apple TV.
It was one of the first stores you could buy videos from. So
yeah, I mean, I've been buying content from iTunes ever since 2004, right? And that's the main reason why I'm in the Apple ecosystem is because of that, And I know a lot of other people, I think like Clyde, for example, is in the Amazon ecosystem, right?
It's pretty hard to get your soul out of that Apple ecosystem once you've sold it. I mean,
admittedly it is because but I mean that's the thing is like in order for me to switch ecosystems, there would have to be a big enough difference for me to shift, right? Yeah. And right now there's just I think Amazon is great, but I don't think there's so much better than Apple for me to switch ecosystems, right?
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I stay there with them. I mean, and I think it would be the same on the other side of the coin as well, right? I mean, if you're in the Amazon ecosystem, the Apple ecosystem is not, any better than what the Amazon is. So why would you want to switch, right?
Right.
Especially if all your content that you own is in that system, right?
Right. Once you've got the buy-in, it's hard to get out.
Yeah, I have rented movies on the Amazon ecosystem, right? Just to try it out and all, and it works fine, works great, right? But I would never buy a movie over there. If I want to go buy a movie or TV show, I do it in the Apple ecosystem, right?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things I really like about like buying. I still buy DVDs, or rather Blu-rays, of the Disney movies, and part of the reason I do that is because that comes with the digital Disney Movies Anywhere license, and so I can subscribe, I can register that, and then it'll show up in my Amazon account and in any other place that I had an account. So it would also work in my Apple iTunes account because they partner with Disney Movies Anywhere as well. And so that's one of the things that I really like about that. So the idea of a My Voodoo type system appeals to somebody like myself, where I could see myself switching ecosystems pretty easily. Not to Apple. I mean, they'd have to do something pretty remarkable to convince me that it would be worthwhile. And not just worthwhile, but it'd have to be more than worthwhile. It'd have to be better than good, better than better, because I don't like Apple expressly. Yeah. So it's like...
right. It's Apple, you either buy in completely or you look at it from the outside and go... That's a nice prison you built for
yourself. But I mean, if I could do so this makes it easier for me to go to Apple though, right? Because if I can buy all my products through Voodoo, and that doesn't tie me into the Apple ecosystem, and I've got all my movies there. Plus, same thing with Blu-ray here. You've got a lot of Blu-rays that offer the ultraviolet. Well, Voodoo has a tie into the ultraviolet collection, so you can watch all your ultraviolet stuff with Voodoo. So, I mean, Voodoo is a pretty appealing ecosystem. It's, it seems like Walmart made a good purchase there, but they haven't done much with it. This is them stepping forward and saying, hey, we spent a lot of money on this 7 years ago now. Let's do something useful with it and get it moving. Because make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, from the Walmart perspective, right, I guess they're having lesser and lesser customers coming into the store to buy DVDs now, right? And this is their play to go digital, I think. And so, putting it on a platform such as Apple, I guess maybe they're just trying to cover all bases. I'm sure they still have quite a few that'll still go in there and get DVDs out of the $5 bin, right? But... yeah,
my favorite.
And then, but the people who are such as ourselves, cord cutters and that kind of thing. Yeah, this is their buy-in to get to those customers as well.
All right. Well, we should probably move along. Our next story is, if I can bring it up here. No, that's not that one. We already did the Walmart.
That's right.
It's Disney.
We've been talking about Disney, and now we get to talk more about it.
I know. It's amazing. Disney has basically been telling everybody, we're going to go and we're going to do our own streaming service. We're going to go away from Netflix after a couple of years. We're going to start doing ESPN. And we bought that streaming backend a couple weeks ago. They're going to be making their own streaming service. And the rumor is... it's going to be $5.
That's pretty awesome.
But what all does it include? What do you get with that $5?
It's from what I've read, and I haven't read everything in here. It's going to be the different parts of the services are going to be different costs, basically $5 each. So if you want the Disney Pixar portion, that's going to be $5. If you want the portion that's the ESPN, that's $5. But
what would get me in is if they were to include the Star Wars, movies and the animation series and all that. If you got the total Star Wars package in there with it, I would pay $5 a month just for that.
Yeah, I think from what I can tell, my reading of this was that they've kind of divided it into at least two distinct sets, right? ESPN, which they'll probably it sounds like they're going to play around with pricing on that, whether it sticks at $5 for ESPN or a little bit more. Probably a little bit more would be my guess. You get an ESPN only package that's probably like $10 a month or something, and that would give you a wide range of all of your ESPN stuff. But pretty much, it sounds like they're talking about all of the Disney stuff, which would be most of your Disney Channel shows and your movies for $5 a month, and that would be pretty huge. That would be like the one place you have to go to buy content for your kids, and then you get, in addition to that, you get some stuff for yourself, like your Marvel movies and your Star Wars movies. And then, maybe you go and you spend another 15 or 10 or 15 bucks or whatever for ESPN to get all of your football games and your baseball games or whatever. I don't know, is baseball really on ESPN, or is that pretty much just ABC?
I think you have some. I think you have some college baseball.
But yeah, I mean, so it seems like they're kind of paying attention to the idea of what people are really looking for with an a la carte solution. Is that, we've talked about that. A lot of people have talked about a la carte TV, and the idea is that a la carte gets so expensive that it doesn't make a lot of sense, because even if you have $5 a channel and you've got 10 channels, well, now you're approaching what you'd pay for cable, and you only get 10 channels instead of just getting everything. So if you have this one day where you want to watch something on the History Channel, you can, right? But this makes it kind of appealing that you get kind of a channel, but it's really not just a channel. It's like a specific brand that you're paying $5 for, and that's a pretty compelling solution to me.
Well, if it's like what Jimmy said, and you could spend $5 just for the LucasArts stuff, that's not a hard sell for me, because I already paid for all of those movies 3 times over. I've got multiple copies.
That would pretty quickly not make financial sense, right? Like, how many months could you pay for that before you could have just bought all of the movies and all of the seasons of the TV show, right? Because that's what it's $125 or something, probably. Probably about $100 for the movies, and probably $50 for the seasons or the shows. So I think you'd probably be somewhere $150. That's 2 years. So.
Yes. I don't know. When we're talking about, okay, the price matches what you're paying for cable, and that kind of thing. For me, and I understand, some people perhaps do cut the cord for, price or money savings or something of that sort. But I don't know. To me, it's a way. Even if you pay the same, in my opinion, and I get what I want to actually watch, that's value add to me. Right. Yeah. And two, not to have to put up with all the stinking commercials that cable television has, and then being able to watch it on your schedule, not theirs. Right. Even if you pay the same, and services like this, it is becoming a bit unwieldy, with all the different services that's out there. But at the same time, you do have a lot of choice, and I could see myself going for something like this, like say, okay, for the next couple of months, I'm going to subscribe to Disney, catch up on a few shows there, and then maybe the next couple of months, maybe I'll try the CBS streaming service, right? Add that in there, Once I kind of get tired of the Disney Channel, then I'll switch over to CBS and start watching some of their shows, right, and that kind of thing. That way I'm not really spending any more or less money. I've got control over what's getting streamed to my television, right? I'm in control, not the cable company, right? And that's, to me, that's the value add of this kind of service.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I don't necessarily feel like I have to get a cheaper solution, but I've got to get something that justifies the change, right? So it's either got to be more convenient, or better versatility or something. But my point was simply that if I pay for a limited number of channels that cost the same amount as my cable, then I'm not getting a very good deal, right? Because with cable, I get a massive amount of channels, which includes probably just about everything that I want, and I get stuff that I don't want, but might occasionally watch or view. But if you've got a better solution that provides more convenience, like because the DVR is better, it's easier to use, it has more storage capacity or whatever, then that kind of thing starts to negate any cost savings. So if all things are equal, it doesn't even matter to me which one I have. If one offers something better at the same price, then I'm going to go that way. Or one offers the same thing for less, I'm going to go that way. So you've got to find a way to balance the value to what you're getting, right? Like not many people are going to cut the cord just so that they can get away from cable if they don't get anything out of it, whether they save money or get a better experience. Now, there's a fair number of people out there that will cut the cord, get rid of cable just so they don't have to deal with the cable companies, but then they're getting something out of it. They don't have to deal with customer service issues that are so common with the cable companies.
Yeah, I'm actually one of those idealistics where I want to actually try to push us past the current thing, willing to try things in order to get us past this current kind of cycle of repetitive whatever it is we're doing right now. But I also have a family and household of people who use the TV. So if it doesn't work for them, it doesn't work for me. So you gotta make it something good enough for everybody. So, all right, should we move on? We have a story about Hulu, and they have finally brought live TV to service. Their beta for the live TV service available for your Mac and your PC. Works on pretty much all the different browsers. So it's much better than what we saw last week, where it's only working on Chrome with I forget which service that was. But they also announced that it's hit the Xbox 360 as well, which is interesting. It's the older Xbox, so that's kind of cool. So, Jimmy, I know you love the service. Are you going to be watching it on your PC?
I don't watch it. I watch it occasionally on my iPad. And one thing I noticed, and I would just notice this just yesterday. On the iPad, there's two Hulu apps. They have a Hulu, which is like the regular on-demand service type Hulu, and then there's a separate app for the live TV service, right? And so they recently updated. I think it updated yesterday, and in the update notes, it said that we're going to go ahead and put out the warning now, combining those two apps into one app, so you get all of the Hulu services through one app. So definitely they're out there busy, trying to improve, all the various platforms that they support, right? And they've done a good job getting a lot of good content. I would argue that they're competing with Netflix in some regard, and they're one of the, okay, let's face it, the three major streaming services is Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon. And Hulu is the only one of those three that's offering a live TV streaming service right now, right? Yeah. So that gives them a little, difference between the other two. But yeah, I really like the service. I wouldn't say that I like it to the point that I wouldn't be willing to, try something else. But for the occasional, live TV that I might want to watch, at least I've got it there. And I think I've said this before on the show, but, having the Hulu Live gives you a lot more on-demand content, too, than the standard Hulu does, right? And I'm more in favor of the, having that big selection of on-demand. Right.
Well, all I can say is that the more platforms Hulu's on, the more likely that we'll be able to look at it for us. Because as we know, if you can't watch it on your device, this is the thing we need. So let's get the other platforms on this.
Yep.
Yeah.
This,
I'm one who's used the heck out of like Netflix on my computer. So the idea of having it accessible through the browser, it's a no-brainer. I mean, it really doesn't make sense to not have that. When you get down to it, why would you be able to get it on an app that utilizes the internet and not in a browser, which is like just about where the internet was born, right? At least for the modern internet that we all know. Why would that make any sense? It doesn't to me. And so this is a good move. I'm glad to see them doing it, and hopefully everybody will do it, because I should be able to use my laptop or my desktop as a viewing device wherever I'm at.
I agree.
very cool. All right, moving on to our last story. It's a wonderful story about Verizon. They've gone ahead and started to throttle all users with their unlimited plan to a lower bitrate screen on their streaming. So if you've got unlimited, you're going to be limited to 480p on your phone or in 720p on your tablet. Is that something that's good? I mean, I think it's the same thing that was done by T-Mobile.
Yeah.
But I think they dropped that.
Well,
right?
T-Mobile does throttle when you get to like about that 22 or 23 gig, limit. But the one thing is that T-Mobile does that I'm not sure if Verizon does this or not, but T-Mobile doesn't count any streaming video against your data.
Yeah.
Right.
This is kind of, I pulled this up for a couple of reasons. First of all, this goes well with the YouTube story that we had earlier, right? That YouTube was, because one of the things is they specifically talk about YouTube in this video, because that is one of the services that they explicitly target with this video cap. But so it's conceivable that certain types of streaming solutions might be able to get around this, but certainly YouTube and Netflix are being throttled explicitly to a maximum of 480p on the phones when you're using their program. So the other reason I was interested in this article is because I switched to the unlimited plan like 3 months ago, because they touted how you're not going to be throttled at all, period, until you get to over 22 gigs of usage. And
which basically means the salespeople aren't told the truth. So
exactly. I mean, it's definitely not what we were told. We are not getting what we were told we were going to get. There's a couple of huge things in here that are difficult and frustrating. First of all is the 480p on your phones. Now, this is a phone, so you could make a reasonable argument, I think, that 480p is probably good enough. But most phones now have like 1080p screens. So why, or better, why would I be limiting the quality of the video to it?
Well,
it's a small enough image. The degradation is probably not terribly noticeable, but
yeah, I think they're trying to keep you from having too big of an impact on their system, which and I kind of get that, right? Yeah. But like you said, Mike, I mean 480p probably good enough for a smartphone, right? But what they do by limiting you to that resolution is that, okay, so what if you had a Chromecast or something like that and wanted to stream it to your television, right? Well, it's going to look kind of crappy on a big 60-inch television, right? And, you're only at 480p, right?
That's not going to work. Yeah.
No.
So if they did this differently, if they came into this with we're going to set your default when you get a new phone from us
right
to 480p, you could change it. and it'll stay whatever you change it to. We're just setting it to default, and because really you're probably not going to use
Yeah.
see much better on that little 5-inch
It's-
screen, anyways.
It's funny because that's actually what I had done before. When we didn't have unlimited data, we were capped at 4 gigabytes per month or something like that, or roughly 4 gigabytes per month per phone. And so, that wasn't totally unreasonable, but it was limited enough that I couldn't just give my kids my phone and let them watch 1080p videos whenever they want. So we went in and we set the default on all our phones that when we're not on Wi-Fi to max out at 480p. And so then we did that intentionally. We had just switched back to don't limit it when you're on Wi-Fi because it doesn't matter now. We have unlimited. And now we're getting throttled down to 480p anyways.
Right.
The other thing that I think is virtually criminal is they tell you that you can do up to 10 gigabits per month with your hotspot. So now I can let my laptop connect to my phone and stream on my laptop on a bigger screen. But now, instead of giving you those 4G speeds for your hotspot, they're capping that out at 600K. 600 kilobits per second.
Oh my God, that is criminal.
That's insane. It's like high dial-up speeds almost. I mean,
dial-up speeds were 54 kilobits per second.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said high dial-up. I was exaggerating a little bit, but this is great. The article, I got to read you the quote from this article. Forget about YouTube. Even just loading the NewYorkTimes.com completely, a 3.8 megabyte page would take you 51 seconds at full speed. Almost a minute just to load a web page.
If they had this in writing before, where you were getting full speeds at the 10 gigabits that you would get out of your hotspot, and now they've changed it, you probably have a leg to stand on for some type of solution. So I could imagine a class.
Yeah, I mean, I was an AT&T subscriber for many years, and they got into playing these kind of games too. The same thing, and a little over 2 years ago, I switched to T-Mobile, and that was one of the reasons why I did. They just maybe a bit more friendlier with their plans and their data speeds and their data plans and all than what the big two are, and. And plus, too, you save a few bucks by switching to them. So, I was like, it's almost a no-brainer for me. And really, I think that's what Verizon's really trying to do here. I think they're trying to compete probably with T-Mobile and some of the adjustments that AT&T just made as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that ends our stories for this week. So, it's a crazy thing. I can't believe Verizon has been doing such crappy things. Actually, I can't believe it's Verizon. What am I talking about? We're going to move on to our main story for this week, which is we're going to be talking about sharing your credentials for streaming services. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Are you guys going to fess up that you do it or not? I want to hear what you guys think. First of all, let's ask the question. Don't tell me what you're sharing. Don't tell me, any of that. But just raise your hand if you're sharing some type of credentials.
I have a friend that shares. Yeah.
Okay.
My
your
friend.
Let's talk about your friend. Does he?
Is his name Poodle?
He hasn't raised his hand in the chat room, so we don't know yet.
Yeah.
So I spend a good amount of my various streaming services are just ones that we own, that we use, and we don't share all of them, but there's a couple that we do share, and I will keep the name of the services anonymous for now. But at the same time, I have a couple of these places out there that they're talking about it in the news, and that it's okay that people are sharing. In particular, we've heard from HBO and from Netflix. They're basically, HBO's like, we know. It's okay. So, does that mean that it's okay for you guys to share with each other on these on this? I mean, first of all, I want to know on just a personal level. We'll get to the moral question in a minute. Is this something that you feel like is something you should be able to do?
So I'll answer here. I occasionally share my Netflix account, and it's actually by chance. When I went to my brother-in-law's house on vacation one time, I signed into my Netflix account from his smart TV and just didn't sign out. And, you know, in this case, I feel okay about not having signed out and him occasionally using it because I actually pay for enough screens. So one of the things that Netflix does is you pay for how many screens you need to be able to view it on. Yeah, 2 by default, I pay extra to get 4 screens and to get the 4K content. So if my brother-in-law happens to stream, it's utilizing one of the streams that I am actually paying for. So I don't know what the terms of service might say about that, but it seems to make sense that that would be morally acceptable. And Netflix has expressed that they don't care. Probably in part because they have a concurrent streams limit on their service. So, you know, I can share it, but if I share it on the internet abroad, then I'm not ever going to be able to watch it because there's going to be more than 4 streams being used at any given time. I don't have HBO or anything else. I don't share any of my other services. It's possible that I share my Amazon services a little bit because other people purchase through my Amazon account on occasion for like birthdays and holidays and stuff like that. So, you know, like my mom knows my Amazon password. She could theoretically go in and watch Amazon Prime videos. Don't think she does, but she could because she can go in and make purchases. That way she can buy gifts without doing it in her account where my father would be able to see the gifts for him right there, you know? So that kind of stuff makes sense to me. I don't know. I don't think anybody actually uses my Amazon Prime because, you know, it's Amazon Prime. Who uses that?
Yeah.
What do you think, Jimmy?
You know, I mean, Netflix especially, I think, kind of encourages it a little bit. I mean, they don't come right out and say that, right? You know, but the thing is, you know, I mean, look at it. You can set up profiles in Netflix, right? I mean, yeah, okay, maybe you could say, well, but that's intended like within a household or something like that. But like, I know I share my account with my parents that, you know, I live in Florida, they live in Georgia. And, you know, Dad watches Netflix on occasion, right? Not too often, really, right? And my daughter recently bought her own place, and she's out on her own. I think once she gets a streaming device to her television, she probably will want to use the Netflix account. Yeah.
Hey, Dad, can I get the
exactly? She's going to do that.
Now, are you starting to bump up against your concurrent streams limit? Is that something that you're going to have to worry about?
Probably so, and I'm probably going to end up doing the same thing you did, Mike, is get the 4K, you know, get that bigger account where I can have the extra screens. You know, and that would be worth it to me, right? You know, to do that. But you know, looking at it from the moral issue, I mean, I guess it's kind of up to the service provider to decide that. To where I don't feel bad about doing that with Netflix, you know, because like I said, they without saying so, they tend to kind of encourage it.
They actually said things early on that like, we know what's happening, we're okay with it, and they've kind of quieted up since.
I mean, if they come and say, "Oh, well, we're going to be checking now," and all this kind of thing, then I'd change my password and stop doing it, right? But now, it's a funny thing, with Hulu and HBO, and I have both those services. I'm a little bit hesitant to want to share those, right? Because I think they do check, right? And I don't do those. So then, I kind of go by whatever guidelines the service provider goes by. I don't necessarily. I think as long as the service provider is okay with it, and they're and obviously they're not checking. I don't really see the moral issue there. Um, I mean, it'd be almost like, say, if I recorded a TV show on go back to the old days, right? Record a TV show onto VHS tape, and then I drop it off to my dad's house so he can watch the same show, right? I mean, we're just, I mean, essentially that's kind of what you're doing with Netflix, right? Say, hey, Dad, watch the latest Hell on Wheels episode, and then let me know what you thought about that episode, right? So
I think this is a genius thing by Netflix and HBO and anybody else who's doing this, because they know they probably won't get the additional user if they didn't have somebody with shared accounts. So this is a promotion. This is them saying, hey, we see that you are going ahead and letting somebody who's not in your area watching your show. That's cool. We're not going to make a big deal about it unless it was a really compromised account. I bet you they every once in a while come across somebody. Well, there's like 400 people on this account. I don't know. They're doing that. There's all over the place. It's being spot all over the. They're watching the map because it's all over the place. I bet you they attack those. But in these instances where it's like one or two people, I bet you in the long term people end up.
I think that's how they view it. I think they view it as advertisement.
Right, it turns people into, I've been bumming this off of this guy for a year or so. I use it so much. Let's go ahead and get our own.
There's a couple of things. I mean, first of all, like Netflix adding profiles makes a big difference, right? I would definitely be against, my brother-in-law or anybody else using my Netflix account if I had to have all my recommendations distorted to account for their viewing habits. On the other hand, if with profiles, as long as I can create enough profiles for each individual, then I don't have to worry about that. So that's a definite bonus. I think one thing that is interesting is you mentioned that Netflix used to kind of say that it was okay early on. HBO was also very early on, very big on Game of Thrones, the most pirated TV show. Yeah, and they've quieted down about those things. And I think a large part of that is, at first, they were kind of encouraging it to, saying it was okay, not like expressly saying it's okay or changing their terms of service, but just kind of letting it be okay to encourage people to use it and to share it and spread it around, get those extra customers. But they had to be quiet about that long term because they start to, muddy the waters, I think, of what is okay and acceptable if their representatives are going on TV or on the record saying it's okay to pirate our stuff or it's okay to share accounts, then they don't have any recourse when people do it. And whether or not those terms of service override those statements, that becomes kind of murky legal water, but it's definitely one of those things where they seem to have quieted about that since then, not necessarily because they care, but I think because they want to have options open when people do things that are egregiously inappropriate, like sharing it with hundreds of people or rebroadcasting the shows over the internet or something like that, which would be a violation and something that they wouldn't want to accept.
Okay, so legally, they have every right to cut anybody off. So actually, if they had not enforced it at any time, they can just say, we're now going to enforce it. And then they can enforce it. If so, you agreed to these terms of services. We were not making you follow them. We're now going to make you follow them. they have every right to go ahead and move you.
Yes,
At that point.
but the like I said, the murky ground is if they say that you can do it, and then you do it, and then they get mad at you for it, without having that like interim statement of you can no longer do it.
Right.
But you know, I mean, that's a fine line for them to walk, though, because if they started cracking down on stuff like that, think of the amount of users would say, well, okay, screw you guys, I'll just go over to XYZ service, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, yeah, it's a fine line for them to have to walk. Yeah, I mean, if they think that it's revenue impacting enough, I suppose they could, you know, kind of gradually, you know, put those controls in place. But you know, just I mean, it seems to me that they could. I don't know. I just don't think it would be worth it for them to really try to crack down on it, especially not Netflix case. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that they actually have already done the right thing, right? Limit the number of concurrent streams that can be utilized by an account to a reasonable number. Two is a little bit unreasonable nowadays, in my opinion, because, you know, I've got 2 kids and a wife and myself. So it's totally reasonable to think that we would have more than 2 streams running concurrently. However, they offer a reasonably priced upgrade to 4, and that also gets me the 4K. So I would be doing it for 4K anyway. So I think it's a good solution, and that's the way that you should handle it. If other people are kind of wondering how to do it, you know, HBO or whatever, that's the way. You just limit the number of concurrent streams, and then if somebody foolishly has given their HBO password to 100 different people, you know, that's their problem. Now they can't get onto their channel because they did that, and they end up changing their password and only telling their one best friend the new password.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it sounds like it's kind of being self-regulated, which is a good thing. Which makes me wonder: does anybody have an HBO password? I have only seen the first season of Game of Thrones, so I've got a lot of catching up to do. I figured I was gonna wait until it was like done, and then watch it, and maybe I will. All right. Well, I think that was an excellent place to stop, and we're gonna move on. All right. Who's got something to rant about this week?
I've got something to rave about.
Well,
Yeah, so I started watching the Defenders on Netflix, and I am enjoying it. You know, I have to be honest. You know, for people that don't know what the Defenders are, that's a Marvel property, and it involves Jessica Jones, the Daredevil, Luke Cage. And then the 4th guy is the Iron Fist, right? Now, I have to be honest, the Iron Fist, I watched like the first maybe 4 episodes of that show, and I could not get through the season. The other 3 I've watched, and I think the Daredevils had 2 seasons now. I've watched both of those. Both of those were excellent. Jessica Jones I thought was good. And Luke Cage I thought was good as well, right? But the Iron Fist, I just could not finish it. Just could not. It just got to be just too. It was pretty bad, right? I just couldn't make it through.
I haven't seen any of the Iron Fist, so all I hear is that it's.
I mean, it's.
I have to watch it now just to find out how bad it is.
Well, you know, now that I'm watching the Defenders, I'm kind of wanting to go back into Iron Fist and maybe watch that, right? Finish off the season and all. But I think I'm like 5 episodes into the Defenders, and I have to say it's really good. You know, especially to see the 4 of them team up like that, you know, and all, and it's really entertaining, you know, and one thing that if you've watched any of those 4, right, One thing I will note that is like, whenever it focuses on just the one, actually it's kind of like whatever neighborhood they're in. If they're in the Daredevil neighborhood, you kind of get the Daredevil video effects, and that kind of thing. Same thing if you're in the Luke Cage neighborhood or the Jessica Jones neighborhood, right? So and they kept true to the form of whatever kind of effects they put in there, right?
So I got a question for you. Do you feel like you need to have watched the other shows first? Would you have missed stuff, or because I've seen all of the Daredevil, loved Daredevil,
Right.
and I think I've seen all of Iron Fist. I have to verify that I got the last episode in, and I actually really liked it. I enjoyed the heck out of the show. It was kind of one of those that I had a hard time putting down, but I am like super into martial arts, and so any kind of show with any kind of martial arts gets like 2 legs up for me. So maybe that's part of why I loved it. But
yeah. Well, here's what I mean, and it's funny that you say it that way. Okay, so I was finding it hard to get through the show. I just started watching the Iron Fist just before the Defenders came out, right? So I watched about 4 episodes and just couldn't quite get into it, and but I liked the other 3. And so now that I've been watching the Defenders and about 5 episodes in that, now I've kind of got this renewed interest into the Iron Fist now, right? And now so now I want to kind of go back and maybe pick back up on that again and watch that. So, but anyway, the Defenders is good. If you've not started watching it, I would recommend it. I'm enjoying it so far, and plan on getting all the way to the end of that whenever I can.
All right. Hey, Michael, you got something to say about?
I don't know. I don't think I do. There's just there's not a lot going on in the video world for me right now.
Yeah, that is a rant.
I mean, I've raved about everything over the last 4 weeks. I've raved about everything that I'm kind of watching or interested in. American Ninja Warrior, So You Think You Can Dance, Running the Game podcast, and the Critical Role podcast. So that's it. That's all I watch right now. And there's just nothing on TV. I mean, it is the summertime, right? So summer is the time of reruns. It's the time of live TV, TV contests and things like that. So, not much of which is terribly appealing to me. What I am finding is that I'm finding that the stuff that I find interesting and engaging is podcasts, user-created content, things like the Modern Rogue, and just various podcasts that we're all aware of. The non-mainstream, the indie or whatever you want to call it, stuff that's produced for the internet exclusively, just seems to be more varied and more interesting. And the production quality isn't necessarily as good. It obviously isn't. They don't spend millions of dollars on production, but it's so much more engaging and personal and real and interesting to me as a general rule. I just have a hard time finding most TV worth engaging with. Now, actual TV shows that have good stories can still definitely be enjoyable, and I do like them, and I like movies, but it's just less and less that seems to catch my attention.
It's a dry spell, and it's really bad this year.
Like, even all the shows that I really liked a couple of years back, like Blind Spot and Blacklist and stuff like that, I just, I haven't even bothered to watch the last season and stuff, just because while they are well-made shows and they're interesting storylines and stuff, it's just, it's not compelling enough to get me to tune in. I'd rather just, watch a little bit of news and then watch some podcasts.
Yeah, I kind of feel that same way, and like those shows, what you just mentioned, well, so what if you don't watch it right away? It's going to be on Netflix eventually anyway, right?
That's part of the problem, right? Like, I know that I can just watch it later anytime, and so it just ends up keep being later. So like 5 years from now, maybe I'll be like, oh, hey, I should catch up on Blind Spot.
Exactly.
I don't even know if it's still running.
Good question. I actually don't know whether it's still up there or not. Well, for me, I've been pretty busy. School's starting up soon, so I've been really busy with getting home late. Too much stuff to do and working through part of the night with the remote stuff I can work on. But my son has been really, really excited for a show that's been coming on. And now I've got the stinking song stuck in my head all day long today and mostly yesterday, which is the new that is, I've only seen the first episode with him, the new version of the DuckTales, but it is so well done. If you ever like the first one, it's a nice callback to it. It's also just a well-made cartoon for kids. I absolutely loved it. So I've still got the song stuck in my head.
That's awesome. I
do want to mention.
I was just going to say I was a huge fan of the DuckTales when I was a kid. I thought it was great. So that's cool.
And the new one. You have to get used to the voices, and they've definitely changed voices of the characters a lot, except for Donald.
Yeah, I mean,
Donald still sounds like
the voice actors would be rather old now, right? Like, because they would have been professionals when we were kids, which that makes them old.
And the other thing is, we do have Poodle in the chat, and he wanted to let us know that the thing he's totally raving about is that he's signed into the new movie pass thing that they've got going on, and he's waiting for his card in order to go start watching movies on it. So I'm really excited to find out how well it works for him. I'm also really excited to find out if this is a thing that just kind of dies, withers on the vine because nobody. It's how is this going to make any money? Somebody's going to have to pay this bill. So I don't know if it's going to work out, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
All right.
Hey, well, so thank you very much, everybody, for watching our episode. I wanted to make sure you guys know that you can contact us at thevodsquad@gmail.com. You can also get to us on Twitter at thevodsquad. And you can find us on YouTube by searching for The VOD Squad. And if you see us on YouTube, and you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. We really need it. If we can hit 100, we can get a vanity URL. We really want that.
And don't forget to vote for the titles.
Yep.
Oh, yes, we're going to do a vote
Because
for the title.
since Poodle Puncher was only in the chat room, there's like 6,000 recommendations for titles. So
Yeah, it's quite a lot
to choose from.
All right. With that, I'm going to go ahead and call it and say...
Latest.
everyone.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.